So here was Chris Cuomo last night laying out the case for why he, as an officer of the court, is standing up for democracy.
This moment will be remembered for what happens next. And I want to be on record to you and to all, as an American, as a journalist, and as an officer of the court. Trump and his party are trying to kill our democracy with these efforts. And I accuse them of this high crime tonight. This is wrong.
Okay, now let me just say, in no uncertain terms, these people are full of so much crap, their eyes are now brown. If they start off as blue, their eyes are turning brown. They are so full of crap, it is spilling out their ears. From boots to the top of their head, they are full of absolute unmitigated crap. Okay, the fact is that if democracy is dying, it is largely due to the effect of people who are turning out the lights. If democracy is dying in darkness, the people who are enforcing the darkness are the members of your esteemed journalistic media, your journalistic establishment, these objective news reporters. Okay, because as it turns out, yesterday, very late last night, it broke that Hunter Biden, the president-elect's son, now says that federal prosecutors are probing his taxes. And now, I'm old enough to remember when the New York Post was banned from Twitter because they posted a story about Hunter Biden's laptop in which it talks about the fact that he was engaged in nefarious goings-on in foreign countries, and that those nefarious goings-on may have had some tax consequences. In fact, the New York Post stories talked about his connections with China. They talked about the possibility of connections between Joe Biden and his brother and his son. Right? The New York Post stories talked about all of this, and they were banned from Twitter. Facebook preemptively decided to downgrade the stories. They said, you know what, these haven't been subjected to fact check yet. So pending a fact check, we are downgrading them. Meanwhile, members of that same established journalistic media, the people who are guarding democracy from the predations of the evil Trump cadre, those same jackasses, they were spending their days suggesting that the New York Post stories were actually Russian disinformation based on nothing, based on literally nothing. I mean, if you look at the headlines from the members of the media before the election, here are some of those headlines. Here's Politico's headline. Hunter Biden's story is Russian disinfo, dozens of former intel officials say. More than 50 former intelligence officials signed a letter casting doubt on the provenance of a New York Post story on the former vice president's son. Now, at no point did Hunter Biden ever, at any point, deny that the laptop was his or that the material on the laptop was his. At no point did he offer a detailed defense of his activities, nor at any point did he offer a detailed explanation of what his relationship was with Joe Biden and whether Joe Biden knew that he was running around the country and abroad, basically trafficking in daddy's name. Okay, so now here is the Politico headline today. Justice Department's interest in Hunter Biden covered more than taxes. So what changed? Question, what changed? Because the answer is nothing. It turns out that he has been under investigation since 2018. Since 2018. So your entire media spent the last year and a half covering up any allegations of Hunter Biden's corruption or any allegations that corruption was connected in any way to Joe Biden. And they suggested it was Russian disinformation. And they had other journalistic outlets like the New York Post downgraded or suspended. And they banned the dissemination of the story by Twitter accounts. And they did all of these things just before the election. Then the election happens, and oh, look at that. Politico is now reporting that the Justice Department's interest in Hunter Biden covered more than taxes. And these people have the temerity to suggest that the threat to democracy is coming from somewhere else. These folks are the threat to democracy. When your media, who are charged with providing you information, decide that they are going to be the arbiters of what information you are allowed to see. And not only that, they're going to bully social media companies into ensuring that you can't see the alternative information. Because remember, it's not just the places like the New York Times and CBS News and Politico and all these other journalistic outlets refused to report certain facts about Hunter Biden and investigate certain facts about Hunter Biden, is that they actively stumped to prevent social media from disseminating information from websites like the Daily Wire. The fact of the matter is that the New York Times has several activists on its payroll whose sole job apparently is just to lobby Facebook to downgrade traffic from places like the Daily Wire. These are the people who are the threat to democracy. You wonder why there's no systemic trust? You wonder why the trust in institutions is way down? Because it's not just that people don't trust the media anymore. It's that anything the media talk about is now tainted. Okay, if the media say that the election is fraudulent, we don't believe you. And if the media say that the election is good, we are also not going to believe you because we don't trust you. See, it's not just that the media's disgusting and nefarious partisanship masquerading as objectivity impacts how we view the media. It is that whenever the media says something about another topic, we now no longer believe what they have to say. Because after all, our news media are supposed to be our prism into the rest of the world. So if we believe that the prism is broken, if we believe that the glasses that the media are providing to us are sunglasses and they're blocking out light. That's going to affect our interpretation of facts across the spectrum. It's going to lower our trust in other institutions. If the media say, people we don't trust, say, you should trust X, we're going to say we don't trust X anymore. That's what's happening here. If there is a decline in institutional trust in America, and there certainly is, it begins with the media, but it doesn't stop there. Okay, it is now infused into the bloodstream of the American political system. Again, just as if you knew you had a friend, okay, and it turns out that your friend was a liar and a cheat. And your friend then came to you and you knew he was a liar and a cheat. And he said, you know who you should trust? You should trust this guy over here. Would you trust that guy? The answer is probably, now maybe you should trust the guy. Maybe that guy's actually a good guy. Maybe your friend, the liar and cheat, is actually right in this one circumstance, but you have no way of telling that. And if it turns out that your friend, the liar and cheat, has also restricted your access to other information to verify whether this third party is good or bad, then you're more likely than not to not believe what he has to say. That is the mainstream media today. That's the mainstream media. The mainstream media are not merely about not providing you the facts. They're about actively covering up the facts, preventing themselves from investigating the facts, throwing journalists like Cheryl Atkinson out of work if they try to investigate particular stories, and then going to social media companies and trying to prevent you from getting another story from another group of people. That's what they do. And then they put democracy dies in darkness at the head of their fake newspapers. It's ridiculous. And when I say that the Washington Post is a fake newspaper, I don't mean that there aren't great investigative journalists at the Washington Post. This is the sad part. A lot of what people do at the Washington Post is useful. The same thing is true of many of the reporters at the New York Times. But when you overall turn your brand into basically a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party, it makes it impossible for people to distinguish what is true from what is false. It makes it impossible for people to trust you on any issue, ranging from how we should act with regard to COVID to how we should believe you with regard to foreign interference in American elections. We just don't know what to believe. And then when you use censorship in order to quash everybody else, it makes us suspicious that you are seriously lying to us. We'll get to more of this in a second because I'm going to bring you the details of this Hunter Biden story. It's amazing. All this stuff was available before the election. And don't tell me that it doesn't affect an election when you prevent the public from seeing things. What happened is that in 2016, the media actually sort of did their jobs by reporting on Hillary Clinton's emails. And then they were so regretful of the fact that Trump was elected, they decided they would never again cover a story that hurt a Democrat in the last month of a campaign. It's that simple. That's all that happened here. And you could see it. You could see it. You could see it because anytime anybody mentioned anything about Hunter Biden, like when Maggie Haberman tweeted out the Hunter Biden story from the New York Post, she was immediately swamped with a tsunami of other journalists telling her not to do it. These are activists. They are not journalists. They are damned liars, and they are destroying the basis for the fundamental basis of a democracy. Because again, it is one thing to have a variety of news sources you pick from. It's another thing to have a dominant establishment media that prevents you from seeing any of the other sources that are available to you. And that's what's going on.